Hey, on this episode of Restoring Christine, we install a new Quincy shop compressor. This is a 60-gallon single-stage unit. We put a new custom air cooling system, new water filtration system, and we then plumb the garage with PEX tubing to distribute the air. So if you're interested in seeing how we got this done, it's a lot in one episode, but stay tuned. Hey, quick little shout out before we get started with this episode. I'd like to give mention to Wild Bill of Vintage Car History. He's a small YouTuber like Restoring Christine, like me, and Wild Bill does episodes on the history of automobiles starting at the absolute beginning. He's got stories out there about Daimler, about Benz, about Chrysler, about Ford, Chevrolet, everybody that was involved, and some of the people that you know, a lot that you probably don't. But he's got a ton of great information for gearheads, petrol heads, as they say in the UK, and, gearheads like me. So I think that's something that you should check out. He's a great guy, very personable. He gave me a shout out unsolicited and, repaying the favor. Hey, any of my viewers out there want to check him out, that'd be great. Vintage Car History. Go check him out. All right, I'm at the local U-Haul dealer. I just picked up a trailer. We're gonna go haul that compressor back. It's got a ramp on it. Hopefully we can slide it up, so let's go get it done. All right, here we go. Let's go get it. All right, we're at the warehouse and we just got the compressor loaded up. It's on the trailer. Getting ready to take it home. Wish me luck in this drive. We'll see you in a minute. Ha! There it is. Got it home. There it is, a 60-gallon Quincy. It's backwards, so its pretty side is the other way. So now I need to walk it back into that corner, but I'm not ready to do that just yet. I got to bring the U-Haul trailer back, and I tell you what, if anybody's interested in moving a 60-gallon compressor, all you need is just a couple of strong backs and weak minds. When I went to the warehouse, I took a couple of my coworkers, and they helped me slide it up onto the trailer, strapped it down. They followed me home, and then we just slid it right off. Literally, didn't lift it. Not at all, just slid it on the pallet. So that little U-Haul trailer that I got, that 5x8, it has a ramp that's long enough that you can do that. So no hoist required, no forklift required, so that's good. All right, next thing is we're gonna start hooking this thing up. Let's go. All right, I managed to fight it off the pallet and slide it off into the corner where it goes, and I kind of walked it. I used a couple of 2x4s to kind of tilt it off the pallet, and I was by myself doing this. Because my help, they've moosed. They're not here anymore. So, all right, let me show you what I got. This is the first good look at this Quincy unit. This is a 60-gallon compressor. It is 240 volt or 230 on the motor. It's 3.5 horsepower motor. I think this unit runs at about 150 psi at single stage. It's got plenty of flow, and that was the main thing I was looking for. It also is supposed to be a quiet unit, even though Quincy is supposed to be made in the USA. Look really good. Assembled in the USA. So you know that there's some Chinese parts or something. There's some imported parts in here. I'm pretty sure the pump is probably imported. But there you go. All right, so what I'm going to do with this unit is, right now the pump discharges directly into the tank. So I'm going to intercept the air as it comes off of the pump, and I'm going to run it through a cooler. I have a fin cooler that I bought and an electric fan that'll blow over it, and it'll cool that air from whatever 275, 300 degrees coming off the head, and it'll cool it down. And then once it cools it down, then I'm going to go through a 3-stage filter system that'll be moisture traps, filter, desiccant, so it'll be 1, 2, 3 right here. And then I'll dump that dry air into the tank. So hopefully that'll give me some longevity with my tank. This tank ought to last forever. And then it'll give me dry air coming out. And if I want to, I can always polish the air on the discharge side of the tank. So that's what we're gonna do. I've got a whole bunch of parts that we'll unpack. I'll show you those as we're assembling them. And another thing that we're gonna do, this will be neat. I bought PEX tubing which to me was a mystery before I started researching it, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to try anything. So anyway, we're going to use a PEX system in this, and I'm going to show you every bit of it, of what we're doing, because I'm going to network my garage. I'm going to give myself about 3 ports in here, one at the, some at the back at my garage door, and then over by my workbench. So that's what we're going to do, and it's just going to take us some time to do it. So we're going to keep rolling. This is the cooler that I got. Got it on Amazon. It's made by Derail or Derale, not sure how you pronounce that, D-E-R-A-L-E Performance. Made in USA. It's a nice little unit. One of the things that you have to know about this, for one, it's got larger diameter tubes on it, so it should flow pretty well. It's multi-pass. I think it's 16 pass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it looks like 16 pass on this. It has flare fittings on the end, but they're 8 AN. So I had to get a special fitting for it. This is an 8 AN adapter. So that'll thread here. I'll have 1/2-inch tubing, and this is a compression fitting, so it has a little ferrule, a little brass ferrule that will go over the tubing with a pipe that I use. And this is going to mount on the compressor right here. And I'm going to have an inlet and an outlet. So I'm going to take the inlet high, the outlet low, and the water and the air will both filter downward. So let me show you a neat little trick. The cooler is a transmission cooler, more or less. It's got large diameter tubes, and it's multi-pass. But it's designed for use in an automobile. So what I was able to do is I was able to get an automotive fan, an electric fan, and it's 12 volts. And so what I got is a computer style converter. This is like almost for a laptop. Laptops I think are 19 volts, but this is 12 volt. So if you'll see, I don't know if my camera's focusing on it, but this basically converts anywhere from 100 to 240 volts, 60 hertz power, and the output will be 12 volts, and this is I believe an 8 amp output. But the wattage of this unit is more than the wattage of the fan. I believe this is a 90 watt unit, and the fan is, I believe, 80. So this is what we're going to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to direct wire this into the power. I'm going to hide this behind there, and then when I put my cooler on, the fan will be plugged in directly to this. And that's what's going to power that up. So let's take a quick look at the fan. This is a Maxon Performance 80 watt 12 volt fan. It is, I believe, an 8-inch diameter on this unit. Let's see, yeah, something like that. So it has 2 leads. It's DC, so there's going to be a positive and a negative. And this motor, you hook the positive up one way and the negative up the same way, and it'll rotate one way. And you invert it, it'll spin in the other direction. So this fan is designed to be push or pull. So I just need to figure out the polarity when I hook this up to my power supply. Now on the power supply, I had to pull off the plug end, and I had to trace these things, so these 3 leads. So what I did is I took a continuity tester, a little small electrical tester, and I figured out which one went to the ground and which one went to which tab. So on the 240 volt, it doesn't really matter. These 2 are going to be oscillating between the 2, so it doesn't matter if one goes to white and one goes to black, or which is which. It doesn't really matter as long as you got the ground correct. So that's what I'm going to have here, and then I'm going to end up playing this, and I'm going to invert the leads to see which way I want the fan to blow. So as I mount this on the side, I need to make a bracket here, and I was thinking about it. I saw somebody, they put this on an angle, and I didn't understand why, but it looks like if you follow these coils, they go in, out, and then they double back up. So the back pass rises every time you do it. It doesn't matter if you flip it this way. There's no downhill. It always spirals down, comes back up, down, back up. So if I mount this vertically, if I mount this straight up and down, these lower tubes are always going to want to collect water, but under pressure and flowing, it's going to push it down. So even though it's got to push it up and come down, and it's going to be a little bit of a fight, it ought to work. So I'm going to mount it straight just to keep it compact instead of way out here on a tilt. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I've got a piece of 1-inch 1 inch by 1 inch by, I don't know what gauge that is. I think it's a little less than 1/8. That might be like 13 gauge angle. But I've got a nice piece of this, and I'm going to make a bracket that'll come off of here. So I'm going to cut that out, weld it up, put this here, and that way I'll be able to figure out what my tubing run needs to be from the top of the discharge head to the top of this, and then from here out to my filter setup. So I'm going to start making this bracket so I can kind of start fitting it and roughing it in. Let's do that. So let me show you what I fit up. I've got two 6-inch angles that go underneath from here to here, there to there, and then I've got a 1 foot long piece that goes from here to here. I'm going to let it extend a little bit further back because those two fittings on the forward end of the cooler require that the cooler be back that far. So what I'll do is I'll bridge up from here to another bracket that'll come across and down. So it'll be one here and one there, mounting it to the compressor, and then a box frame more or less that the cooler mounts to the face of. So let's weld this up, and I'll continue fitting. Okay, there's the frame all welded up, grinded smooth, ready to be painted and mounted. I need to drill the holes. I'm probably going to pull this closer to the compressor, but let's just show you what this is going to look like from here. So this mounts right on that. So that's going to be really nice. I'll be able to put my little screw holes through it, and yeah, that ought to work. So let's continue. Okay, so here's where I'm at. I'm trying to route the copper in between the pump, the cooler, the dryers, and then back into the tank. So when I left off last in the garage, I was just rough cutting. I was cutting out all of my copper, getting all my fittings, routing it, and none of this is sweated yet, so I'm going to sweat that in a little bit. But I'm routing it. I got it out of a compression fitting here, going into some 90s, routing it under and around the controller switch and the pressure gauge. It drops into the tank. Coming off of the head, I'm going to route it around here to the upper flare fitting. I got this lower flare fitting, and I'm going to tie it into here. So let me show you the subtle difference here of what I'm dealing with. This is 1/2-inch tubing on the cooler, and then 1/2-inch copper pipe on the rest of the system, which is the same as 5/8-inch tubing. This is 1/2-inch tubing, and that's 1/2-inch copper pipe. So the two are a little bit different in diameter. I had to get an HVAC, a refrigeration adapter, that goes between the two. So that's what I'm going to use here. I had to get this. This was hard to find. I had to get that from an HVAC supply shop. And they also had this handy dandy pre-made flare with the 1/2-inch tubing on it. So I'm going to go from here. I'm going to use that coupler. I'm going to, let's see. So the coupler is going to end up going here. Oops, backwards. Here to jump up to the 1/2. I'm going to turn my 90 here and into it, and that'll all be nice and tight and tidy. And then we'll be able to sweat all this up. So let me go ahead and finish fitting those last few pieces. All right, everything's fitted up. Probably boring you with all this plumbing stuff, but flare, 1/2-inch tubing, 1/2-inch tubing to 5/8 tubing, street elbow, 1/2-inch copper pipe, which is the same as 5/8 tubing. I 45'd it just to make this a little tidier. Coming back into here, got the bottom one already routed. So now what I'm doing right now is I'm sanding, cleaning out the fittings, applying flux, and I'm gonna go ahead and sweat all of this more or less in place as much as I can, but that's what I'm doing now. Let's get after it. There's 2 tricks to sweating copper pipe. You've got to clean all your fittings really well. I've got a fitting brush that I use. So you got to clean everything. It's a wire brush, and you clean out the inside, and then you use sandpaper to clean the outside. And once you get it cleaned, you need to have flux on it. So I've got a flux coating that I'm using. And what you have to do is you have to heat the copper hot enough to where the copper melts the solder. You don't ever want the flame to melt the solder. You want the copper pipe to melt the solder. So let's keep on going. All right, so let's see how good of a plumber I am. All right, there's the inlet. Goes into the cooler. Got a compression coupler. All the joints look good. Transitions from 1/2 inch copper pipe to 1/2 inch copper tubing. Got a flare fitting here, looks good. Comes out of the cooler, same thing here. I got 2 compression fittings here that the nuts and the ferrule aren't on yet. I need to tighten this, put a little Teflon, tighten, and button all that up. And then I took the regulator, pressure regulator and gauge off so that I could sweat all of this in place because it was flippity-flew and flopping around. And there's a compression nut back here. So everything now is sweated. It's all soldered, everything looks good. I didn't show you the bracket. So the bracket that I made here, I don't know if you remember, in the episode where I was putting the braces in, Christine, I picked up some extra metal and I said, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I'll find something. Well, there's one of the things I did. I took a piece of flat, I think this is 1/9 of an inch, this is maybe 13 gauge plate, and I bent it 90, had a little bit of a rise here, shorter rise there, bolted there, held it off. Simple little bracket, rugged as all get out. So that's how that's going to be. So now what I need to do is I need to go back and put the pressure regulator on, finish up with these fittings, get my wiring back in. I didn't finish my 220 wiring. I got a whip that I'm going to couple into it up here. I had it coupled, but then when I had to take this apart in order to get that done, but now I need to reassemble it, and then I can show you the power for the fan, where the fan is going to go in the back of the cooler. Keep on going. All right, are you ready for the grand reveal? We got it done. I was too chicken to try it and like turn the switch on with the camera on in case something went pop or I let the smoke out. You know, if I let the smoke out of the motor or the compressor, you know, it's toast. That's the electric rule. Keep the smoke in the motor. You give up the ghost, it dies. So it didn't die. All right, you ready to see it? There it is. All right, so I got all my plumbing in. So it's a major adaptation of the compressor, but the compressor used to go straight from the pump into the tank. And then what I did is I just created a circuit that's on the side here and has this 1/2 inch transmission cooler. And I've got an electric fan on the back of it. It's 12 volts. I got a computer power supply that's 12 volts right now. It's just dangling. I'm going to end up tucking it back in there. But yeah, that's it. It comes out of there through all the dryers into the compressor. It's holding air steady right now, holding steady pressure. So here we go. It works. It must have a little pressure relief valve that bleeds down the pressure so that the pump is not sitting on the pressure. It must be a check here. So all of this goes down. You can see I got a pressure gauge here right now. It's got about 140, 135 PSI in the tank. And check this out. It's dripping. Boop, boop, boop. So no pressure here. So when the pressure goes off, it drips out of the bottom. It's a pretty cool little system. So it's got a, this first stage is a water collector, then it's got a filter, and then it's got a desiccant dryer on the end. So the desiccant supposedly turns pink when it gets wet, and right now it's a dark blue like the compressor. But I know the trick. Fresh Step kitty litter available at any grocery store, even little bitty ones. That's basically silicone beads. You know, that's the desiccant that you would need for anything. So you just go get you some Fresh Step kitty litter. That's all the desiccant dryer that you need. So, all right. One last thing. I just ran it and it's set on auto and it just tripped at 150 PSI. The pump shut down and then my little water collector is dripping water. So far, that's what's come out of it. Now, I'm not liking how this second filter seems to have water in it. You would think most of it would be here, but it's got water there. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, let's talk air tubing or piping. What I'm going to use is PEX, P-E-X. This is a plumbing pipe, and it is PEX stands for cross-linked polyethylene. So it's PE and the X stands for cross-linked polyethylene. And there's 3 different types. There's an A, a B, and a C. And I don't know a tremendous a lot about this except for what I've researched. And the difference between the A, B, and the C is simply manufacturing method. All 3 are to the same standard or same spec and same performance. I think the big difference is flexibility. A is the most flexible, it's most expensive. B, I think, is the most common, and C might be a little more rigid based on the way that it's made. But what you need for PEX, for this tubing, it's so simple to assemble and fabricate. They make valves, they make fittings if you want to like have T's, but it's so flexible. You can see how flexible it is. You can bend, you know, loose 90s with maybe like a 6-inch or an 8-inch radius you can bend on your own. And this tubing is rated for, let's see if I can get a section where we can read it. 1/2 inch. It's rated at 160 psi at 73 degrees Fahrenheit. It's rated at 100 psi at 180 degrees and 80 psi at 200 degrees. So it's sensitive to temperature, which is important because when I put my cooler on here, my cooler, I didn't show you, but I don't know how to show you, but it's hot as a firecracker coming out of the head of the compressor, and then once it comes out of the cooler, it's cool to the touch. I can touch all of this. So this is coming out at an ambient room temperature, which is good because then that means that I can run a PEX pipe without using the thermal variety. There's one that's PEX, AL, PEX, something like that, and it's got an aluminum layer on the inside. If you can run it at high temperature, maybe you need it. But I've seen lots and lots and lots of people that run this PEX, the regular PEX, with just this cooler. So that's what I'm going to do. I mean, if it's rated above the pressure that we're going to be running at, and its burst pressure is a lot higher. But let me show you how these fittings work, which is really awesome. So first off, you need, or you'd benefit from having a cutter, a special cutter to do this. And they make one, it's a clampy variety. And it's a little pricey. It's about 30 bucks for it on the shelf at the store. But they also make this one, and I spotted this one. This is only like $11, and this is all I need for doing one job. I'm not a professional plumber, and this thing works great. It's based on just a little bit of tension. You slip the pipe in here, and then there's a directional arrow, and you just trace it just like you do in a tubing cutter. Boom, 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 and boom. There it is. And it's cut. So now, fittings, you familiar with how like you have to fight? Sometimes you have to fight because of the conflict between the male and the female here. Haha, no pun intended. But this slips on really easily, and you can see the fitting when it's done. It's tight as can be. You can't move it, you can't rotate it, you can't spin it, you can't pull it out. So that is going to, this connection is going to be made by a stainless steel clamp that looks like this. And these come in a bag. They're real cheap, affordable, I might want to say. You just slip it over, and the tool, the clamp tool. Now this is a little pricey. This is the brand name version from the big box store. I saw I could get it for about half price in a generic version made out of Chinesium on Amazon for about half the price, but I decided to go ahead and buy what I had, which was local, and it's got a little square jaw on the inside, and you put this just like this. Oops, I missed it. So you put that like that and just squeeze. One full ratchet grip. Boom. And it's done. That is it. So we're going to do the entire garage like this. I'm only going to use a couple of T's. I'm going to bend 90s where I can. So my plan is I'm going to route, let's see if I can show you. I'm going to pick it up off the compressor here, run it up into the ceiling, and then I'm going to run it across this way, and I'm going to tee off and go to, I've got an air reel that's over here, it needs a new hose. I'm going to replace that, but I'm going to take and I'm going to continue my straight run all the way to my bench, which is an absolute cluster mess right now, and I'm going to put a port over there. But what I'm going to do is I bought regulators. So I'm going to put a pressure regulator at every outlet. I'll run house pressure, I'll run compressor pressure all the way to where I need to get it, high pressure there, and then once I get it to where my work is, I'll regulate my pressure locally. So what that'll do is that'll keep the CFMs up. If the compressor's not running, we got that high pressure behind it, shoving it through the straw that's up in the with distance. And then once we get to our local area, that's where we're going to throttle the pressure back and just run lower pressure in the small hose that leads to my tools. So that's my plan. I'm going to have one pressure regulator over there by my reel, and I'm going to have a pressure regulator over there by my bench. That's what I'm going to do. So just got to get it done. Let's do it. All right, we've got it. I've got it. I got my two legs plumbed in, the airlines. I've got the PEX up in the ceiling. You can see it behind me. It goes all the way up, goes all the way down. There's a T up there, and then it goes to my bench way off in the distance, and I've got a valve there, and I've got a leg here off of this T that comes up, and it runs all the way down to where my reel is, and I don't have my reel hooked up yet because I need to repair it, but that's it. I've got it. It's holding air pressure right now. So, I mean, it dropped a little bit when I cracked it open to pressurize the lines, but the compressor hadn't kicked on all day, so nothing's leaking. Nothing is leaking. Let me show you what we got on the at the valves. So this is at my workbench, and I've got an on-off valve. So if I kick it on, you see I get airflow. And right now I don't have a fitting on it. I'm going to put a fitting on it after, but if I close it all the way off, boop. See? So it's wide open, valve shut, regulators down. So watch. If I put a little bit of pressure on it, see the pressure? See the pressure coming up. So it works. I got it. And I got the same thing over here. My garage is a bomb. It's a bomb went off. It's a mess. So there it is in the other one. So it's the same thing. I've just got another little barb here because I need to put a hose that goes up to my reel up in the ceiling. So that's it. So that's gonna do it for another episode. Got another one. Man, this is several weeks that it took me to do this, and then I've also got my son is traveling for the summer, and he's in a drum corps, his world-class drum corps, Music City out of Nashville, and he's on a 17,000 mile tour playing tenor drums for a world-class corps, and I couldn't be more proud of him. Jensen, he's one of the guys you see in the pictures when he was a little bitty boy, but now he's 20. Anyway, so that's going to wrap it up for this one. I hope you got something out of it. I hope this was helpful. The next time you see me, though, we're going to be working on Christine. Again, that's going to be it. So, but for this is going to wrap it up for this Quincy 60-gallon air compressor. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. For all of you that are liking my channel, please give me a subscription. If you're liking the videos, just give me a thumbs up. As always, take care of yourself. Until next time, cheers.